Hey guys, this is Adrian from PDC with yet another video. I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for all the continued support you guys have given me, especially in the past month. Uh, this channel has risen to 1,100 subscribers and counting, and I'm actually really excited for all the cool things that we'll be doing together in the new year. With next month being nationals, and all the hype and news and buzz around One Piece and One Piece card game, I think we're gonna have a really exciting journey. So if you guys have liked being a part of it so far, please consider commenting, and subscribing on our videos. Tons more amazing content coming up, and I'm gonna bring in a lot of my local community members and teammates that also have a lot of knowledge and wealth that they want to share with y'all. So yeah, let's get started with today's video. Today's video is the top 5 decks to play in OP05. These are the meta decks that I believe you should play to, one, improve at the game, and also to win at your locals, and also maybe bring to a treasure cup or a regional level competition, right? So these are Whitebeard, Sakazuki, Purple Luffy, Enel, and Katakuri, and I think we're also going to be covering Red-Green Law as well. So let's dive right into it with the very first deck. My favorite, and also the de facto best deck in format, Sakazuki. So not too much to say about this deck in particular. This is the list that I brought to 3-on-3, where my team placed 4th, and I personally went undefeated. So I think the thing that stands out the most about this list is that one is that we're running 2 Hinas. I think that gives you an 85% chance of getting a brand new Aura Hina in your first turn 1, turn 2, which is really important, especially if you're going first. Another thing is that we've decided not to run any 10 cost Kaidos. This was a decision that we didn't take lightly. We did a lot of playtesting, and I myself have a particular playstyle where I personally don't believe that Sakazuki is a control deck. It's more of an aggro deck that pressures down your opponent, and it has access to a plethora of removal. And so I think my theory is that if played correctly, there is no safe turn for your opponent to play Kaido against you, and for yourself, you do not need Kaido to win. And so I prefer this more consistent build that's able to get me as many wins as possible, especially over a national level competition where you're playing about 10 games or so. And so this is a generic matchup list. These are my opinions only, so it's not an end-all be-all. But this is a general list for the general player. Obviously, if you start playing the deck, you're gonna have different levels of matchups and different comfort with in those matchups, right? So for me, Sakazuki is really good into Purple Luffy, Red Purple Luffy, as well as Red Green Law. It's got a 50-50 matchup into Katakuri and Enel. Although if you learn that matchup in particular, especially for Sakazuki, there is no bad matchup. You can win against every single deck, especially against yellow. But it does require a little bit more practice. And definitely the worst matchups is red. Stuff like Whitebeard and Zoro, they're basically geared towards beating you. They're going to rush you down before you're able to set up your wall, before you're able to set up your win conditions. And so you just have to be really careful and be very, just make sure you don't get rushed down before you're able to win. That's pretty much it. Next up is Whitebeard. This is a really cool list. I think we all saw during OP04, Whitebeard was dominating the meta so much that Bandai decided to ban it for a while, right? And now that OP05 is released, the ban list restrictions have been lifted, and Whitebeard is back. Although, with the meta that's currently circulating, with Enel being strong, Katakuri being strong, Sakazuki, Whitebeard doesn't really have the legs to be a tier 1 deck, and so this new version came out in Japan, and it's called Gasbeard. Gasbeard essentially gives up on any notion of playing Whitebeard normally, which is playing the 9-drop. But instead, what it does is efficiently rush down your opponent, right? You're using the power of Whitebeard, being able to swing 6 every turn as a leader, and also to draw as many cards from your life as possible to basically rush down your opponent in your first 6 or 7 turns. So you have stuff like 4 Monkey D. Luffy's, Rush Luffy's, and then you have these two Sanjis, 6-cost Sanjis. You basically play them and you swing as soon as you can. This is specifically a Sakazuki tech because Sakazuki has to use a lot more resources to bring down a 6-cost and above. And then you have 4 aces, right? So you're basically, if you guys know the notion, just swing face. Face is the place. This is the specific deck for it, right? Face is the place. Don't worry about removal, right? Bring your 4 radical beams and your 4 guard points. Try to protect yourself, but anything that you play, you just swing face. And so Whitebeard has a good matchup into Sakazuki. It's slightly favorable into Katakuri, although now it's a lot more tight, right? It's got 50-50s against Zoro and Red Green Law, but it has a losing matchup against Purple Luffy, against Enel, and against Red Purple Luffy. So yeah, definitely try this deck out. I think any of the decks here are, tier 1 to tier 1.5, and can definitely win at your locals and possibly top at regionals. Especially some of the decks that we're gonna highlight here. For instance, Red Green Law is come back with a vengeance, right? We all thought that Red Green Law was dead after the restrictions, but it was still strong, and now that the restrictions are lifted, it's even stronger. I don't know what to say about this deck, but that it keeps coming back to life. It has if you look at the list right now, right, it hasn't really changed since OP02. These are really, really old cards that are just able to combo with each other and utilize Red Green Law's leader ability, Shambles, like so effectively that it's prevalent in almost every meta. I think even in OP06 you could still play Red Green Law, which is absolutely crazy for me, right? I think the one difference that we have here is Dogura. Dogura is a new tech that a lot of the high-level players have adopted in the Western scene. Basically, it's a one-cost red, one-drop red, where it's able to activate main. You may rest the character to play up to 1 red character other than Dogura with a cost of 1 from your hand. So essentially what Dogura is doing is it's a 1-cost body on board that's able to play a Nami or Makino or Otama, and able to get Law to use the Shambles effect 1 turn early. So I think all in all, this card allows Law to be a little bit more hyper aggro in exchange for a little bit of consistency, right? It can pop off faster, but at the end of the day, Dogura is a 1-cost body that essentially doesn't really do too much. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that tech plays out, and if a lot of Laws will end up keeping that in their list. But for now, I think Red Green Law is really, really strong into the meta, and here I'm going to explain to you why. After doing this matchup spread, I actually think the Law is really, really good, and I think that it's probably going to get at least I will say for certain that it's going to get at least a top 16 finish at Nationals, right? It's good into Purple Luffy, NL, Red Purple Luffy, Katakuri. It's 50-50 against Zoro and Whitebeard, except you're not going to see too much red going to the event. And the only bad matchup it has, the only thing that's stopping it from being the best deck in format, is Sakazuki. Now, that's kind of like a nail in the coffin, right? Because Saka is the best deck in format, but if you listen to players, Nikki, for example, who's probably the best Law in the West, he doesn't think that matchup is too bad. So it's not like this is an instant loss. I think that Sakazuki still have to see at least 2 Lucchis, so 2 multiple removals, in order to win the game. And so Laws can still, high roll and pop off and just win any matchup. And this is just such a strong leader with such a strong list that I strongly believe that the best players, the highest skill players in this game, are going to pick this leader and provide really good results with it. So next up is Katakuri. Yeah, not too much to say about Katakuri. It's the deck that keeps giving. Ever since it came out in 03, people have been picking it up, playing and bringing good results with it. The only difference is that from set 3 to set 4 to now set 5, the deck keeps getting stronger and stronger. There keeps getting more more yellow support, right? So for O5, the biggest changes in yellow decks is this insane card called 200 million volts, otherwise known as Amaru. Amaru is able to basically, it's a 2 cost and it gives a character or a leader 3000 power, but most importantly, it rests an opponent's character of 4 costs or below. So, blockers like Borsellino or 4-cost Slaw, or let's say like Choppers, this card can clear through them. And one of Katakuri's worst matchups, Whitebeard, the 4-cost blocker Marco, that is why the Katakuri Whitebeard matchup isn't that bad anymore. In fact, it's more 50-50 than anything. So this card Amaru is now Katakuri's finisher. On top of getting, more consistent cards like a 2-cost trigger Satori, running 4 Thunderbolts, and now Katakuri back into the meta. I think that, Tracker back into the meta, I think Katakuri is such a strong pick. And, looking at the matchup spread, what I can see here is that it's a pretty unique deck, actually, right? In that it doesn't really have any bad matchups. As you can see here, it's really only bad into Purple Luffy, and it's only good into Red Purple Luffy, but 50-50 into everything else. So what's really interesting about Katakuri is that you can win against any deck. I think it's the only deck in the meta right now, aside from Sakazuki, that can win or lose against any deck. And a lot of it is going to be based off of the quality of your triggers. And so, if you like going to the casino, this deck is for you. All you have to do is play solid. And this is gonna. There's gonna be a lot of categories in the top 32 for sure, right? So moving forward, another yellow deck that we should look at is Enel. I think that Enel is definitely at this point right now the second best deck in the format. And I think what's great about Enel is that it is so flexible. There's 2 different types of decks. There's Sky Enel, then there's Big Mom Enel, and then there's like a little hybrid. But then there's also 2 ways to play it, where one is Rush Aggro and the other is Starve, where you just don't swing at your opponent. You build up a board and you basically outvalue them out of their resources. And so having so many different types of variations of deck lists, and also having a variation of playstyle, I think allows Enel to play a lot of mind games with your opponent, and the flexibility is just so good in a high level competition. But this one in particular is pulled from the first place finish at the Core TCG LA Regionals. This one in particular is a hybrid sort of more of a Sky Enel leaning list. I think the coolest thing about the Sky list is that the Ohms and the Holies give you just a great top end, right? Bless you. If you play Ohm and then you get to draw that Holy, you have a great board that is really hard to answer. And then you have the 7-cost Enel that is really aggressive and is hard to remove off the board. And then to top it off, you have your late game big monsters like the 7-cost Linlin, Katakuris, and the Yamatos to keep healing off your life. So I think Enel right now is such a strong leader, right? Having the ability to heal once per turn on your opponent's turn every single time. A lot of people told me that, Enel is going to dominate the beginning of OP05 meta because no one knows how to play around it. But once you play around it, it's going to be easy. I don't believe that to be true. If you ever have to play around something, right? If something is forcing you to play specific playstyle, that means that means that effect is broken, right? Having the ability to force you to play a certain way means that effect is inherently strong. And so I think that Enel is going to be strong, for the remainder of OP5. And, once OP6 comes out, Enel is going to be, it's going to still be a tier 1 deck. It's really, really strong, and here's why, right? It's got really good matchups. It's good into red, and I think more importantly, it's playable into Sakazuki. I think it's actually slightly favorable, but more 50-50 into Katakuri. And the bad matchups it has is Purple Luffy and Red Green Law. And I think that, at least in the Western scene right now, Purple Luffy is experiencing a downslide. So you're going to see less Purple Luffys into Nationals. which means that Enel is probably one of your best picks going into nationals. If you really do want to, top at nationals, I think Enel is one of your top 3 options at the very least. Next up is our last deck, Purple Luffy. I know I just said that it's experiencing downward slope in popularity, but when that happens, when everyone is bringing Enel into nationals, that means that Purple Luffy is suddenly a very, very good pick. Purple Luffy introduces a brand new style of playing into One Piece card game. It means the style is consistent ramping, right? Before we played stuff like Kaido or Magellan or Red Purple Luffy, where you're trying to find the cards to ramp, but Purple Luffy can do it consistently. It can do it once per turn based on its leader effect. So the turn 2 going second Magellan play, the turn 3 Poly and to pop something of a 4 cost and also ramping, and then being able to play out your kids and playing out your Kaidos. I think this deck is still very, very, very strong, and I think even in the European scene, I think Purple Luffy is really, really popular. It's just that over here in the Western scene, it didn't do as well. I know that especially in the 3-on-3s, a lot of my teammate didn't really like playing Purple Luffy, and also I think a lot of our friends who played in 3-on-3, they also lost a little bit of faith in Luffy. But when the meta shifts, when certain decks are played more, I think it gives certain decks like Purple Luffy a little bit of an edge, right? I think this list in particular, Sheep's Horn, is really interesting. It's a 2 cost, Dawn -1, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less. This is going to allow you to finish off a lot of the other decks that have those 5 cost blockers. But yeah, this is a really strong deck, and it's rather consistent. So if we look at the matchups, I think the one thing that's really holding Purple Luffy back is that it has a losing matchup to Sakazuki, but it's good against Enel, which is nearly as probably more popular than Sakazuki at this point. Whitebeard, Katakuri, Red Purple Luffy, and it's just bad into Law, and it's bad into Zoro, and it's bad into Sakazuki. But yeah, I think this, if you do plan to, I would say Purple Luffy is probably the most consistent deck against rogue decks, right? So these leaders that I have listed here, that's the meta, but there's going to be other one-off cards, one-off decks, like Namis are going to show up, Magellans are going to show up. Purple Luffy would be the deck to play against those decks. It's the most consistent, it can pop off, it's fast, it ramps, and it's really solid. And so yeah, this is my meta wrap up. I think I love doing these deck lists. I love talking about what's hot in the meta right now, but I know you guys have been asking for it, so after this I will be doing some gameplay videos, and I think I'll also be posting some videos on coaching, right? Because I'm a Sakazuki player. I think I'm one of the best Sakazukis in the West. That's just my ego. That's just my confidence. But at the same time, I'm not good at everything, and I love learning more, because I believe that learning more decks means that you have a wider perspective and better understanding of the game. And so yeah, moving forward, I'm probably going to be doing a lot of coaching sessions with my teammates, and they're going to teach me how to play certain decks, and you guys are going to follow along and learn with me. So get excited for that. Tons more content. Happy New Year, everyone. I'll see you guys soon. Bye. Peace.